Now.
On 105.9 FM and streaming worldwide on the WMAL app.
O'Connor and Company.
It's 7:06. Thanks for joining us this Wednesday morning on O'Connor and Company. Coming up at 7:35, John Malcolm, Heritage Foundation, on that D.C. Circuit ruling regarding the January 6 charges against Donald Trump. 8:05, Sean Spicer on the intrigue at the RNC surrounding Ronna McDaniel. And then at 8:35, Paula Scanlon on National Girls and Women in Sports Day. I'm Larry O'Connor on O'Connor and Company, and Julie Gunlock is right there on O'Connor and Company. Good morning, Julie Gunlock. It's good to talk with you. Your name, Gunlock, is actually probably about to get banned in Richmond. Or possibly.
They do like gun locks.
It probably
they like to
already...
lock them up.
That's true. Lock anyone up with a gun.
Yeah.
Except for the people who are actually using handguns to commit crimes. I'm pretty sure your name is already banned in Annapolis, considering how Maryland goes. So maybe that's why you stick to Alexandria as much as possible. Joining us right now, Erich Pratt, Senior Vice President for Gun Owners of America. I joke, of course, Erich, but it is amazing. I don't remember any Democrat running in Virginia saying, put me down in Richmond, give us a majority, and we'll start chipping away on your Second Amendment rights. But here we are, first several weeks of the session, and they've got their ban, or at least they're attempting to have their ban. What are they doing down there?
Oh, you're absolutely right. And Larry and Julie, thanks so much for having me back. Yeah, this is Democrats being Democrats. In fact, one Democrat in this country said that she wants to return us to muskets. They consistently favor the rights of criminals, and they're always making it harder for good people to choose the firearms they want to use for protection. So down in Richmond, they're referring to this bill as an assault weapons ban, but that's not really what these guns are. I mean, that's a made-up term. These are defensive firearms they're trying to ban. They're commonly owned firearms. They're used to save lives all the time. In fact, one of my friends who works with me at Gun Owners of America actually used his AR-15 to stop a bad guy who was shooting up a church. That was in Texas in 2017. See, these are defensive firearms. And ironically, this bill we're talking about, HB 2, would ban guns that are used in fewer murders in the country than knives, hammers, or even your fists. I mean, this is according to FBI statistics.
Yeah.
So you might wonder, hey, why aren't Democrats trying to ban knives and hammers, right? Anyway, we know what the Democrats are doing, but in both chambers, it's probably going to pass. It already did pass by a purely party line vote. It'll probably happen that way in the Senate. So the big question is, what will Governor Youngkin do? I mean, he's been very quiet on the gun issue, much more so than I would have liked, and he really hasn't been tested. So we're not taking any chances, Larry. GOA is encouraging everyone who cherishes their God-given Second Amendment rights to call the governor's office. I mean, I'll give out the phone number, so grab a pen, get your phone out. Urge the governor to veto every gun control bill, every gun restriction that compromises our Second Amendment rights, especially this HB 2. And the number is, it's an 804 number because it's Richmond, 804-786-2211. And you can either press 1 to leave a message, but much preferred, press 2 so that you can talk to their staff. They need to hear from a lot of people personally.
These so-called assault weapon bans are always interesting in how they try to define what an assault weapon is. And the language says, any semi-automatic center-fire rifle or pistol which expels single or multiple projectiles by action of an explosion of a combustible material, and which is basically the definition of pretty much every rifle, right?
Right.
And is equipped at the time of the offense with a magazine which will hold more than 20 rounds of ammunition, or designed by the manufacturer to accommodate a silencer, or equipped with a folding stock. I'm guessing that's the problematic language here in a nutshell, number one. And I'm told by Joe Biden that these kind of weapons can blow a giant hole through a deer and turn them into hamburgers, so you wouldn't even use it for hunting. Don't tell me the president is wrong about this.
Yeah, he also said that your 9mm handgun would blow a lung out. Kind of sounds like Ralphie at Christmas, instead of shooting your eye out, now you're going to blow your lung out. Yeah, you're absolutely right. And by the way, any firearm which accepts a magazine can accept a 20-round magazine or more. So really what they're doing is any any of these firearms, and we're talking about your AR-15s and even, things like your Glock handguns that can accept these magazines, this is what they're targeting. I mean, they really do want to ban the modern technology. And, the one who said they want to return us to muskets, I mean, she's really speaking for Democrats all around the country.
Yeah, and your suburban moms who are all your
That's
friends,
right.
Julie Gunlock.
Yeah, the suburban moms in Northern Virginia. But it's not just Virginia. You've got this bill in Maryland that would require gun owners to get liability insurance to carry their firearms. You sort of stated it perfectly. This is an assault on people trying to defend themselves, because we know, I don't know a lot of illegal gun owners who are going to say, well, I can't afford the liability insurance, so maybe I shouldn't use this gun. Tell us what your thoughts are on this new Maryland bill.
Yeah, as you laid it out, I mean, this is going to increase the cost for anyone who wants to carry a gun for protection. It's going to force law-abiding citizens to get very costly insurance. Of course, criminals aren't going to get that insurance, right? I mean, what a joke. But imagine, just think about how if we applied this to other rights. The Supreme Court has said you can't yell fire in a crowded theater. So imagine if we made people carry liability insurance just in case someone unlawfully pulls the fire alarm, kind of like that congressman out of New York did in Congress, right? I mean, so would it be fair to require liability insurance of every person, even if they've never, ever pulled a firearm unlawfully? I mean, that's ridiculous, but that's akin to what Democrats are doing here in targeting lawful gun owners. Yeah, go ahead.
There's not a lot of hope in Maryland, of course, to try to call and make a difference. I think Maryland's attack on guns will only be resolved through the courts, which we have seen, though. We've seen some success in rolling back what the politicians in Maryland try to do. It just takes years to make it through its courts.
You're absolutely right, and that's how we're going to have to fight it. And because, it's not just Maryland that's throwing down these kind of roadblocks. After the Supreme Court smacked down New York for refusing to issue concealed carry permits, the state put most of the state off limits to concealed carriers. So Gun Owners of America sued the state. We won in district court, and we won 50% of our case at the appellate level. Now California is doing the same thing. They've put most of California off limits to concealed carry, so we're suing California. We just filed that case last month. But it is a never-ending battle with the anti-gun left to keep trying to put hurdles in the way of concealed carriers. And really, that's what this bill in Maryland is all about. They're trying to keep good people from exercising their rights.
Yeah, and it just needs to be reiterated. They may claim that they're trying to stop violent crime or crimes used with a gun, but again, the people who are committing those crimes are not following the law. So they're not going to follow these laws either. Erich Pratt is with us, Gun Owners of America. We've only got about a minute left. Have you seen this bill that Senator Markey and Congressman Raskin are trying to push through? That they're claiming this is to stop paramilitary groups like the Proud Boys from assaulting our democracy again. These are their words. But it sounds to me like it's going to keep people from just doing basic sort of self-defense training. Do you know which bill I'm talking about?
Yeah, and you're right. I mean, this is just yet another attempt to ban people from protecting themselves. Condoleezza Rice, who, of course, was Secretary of State for George Bush, talks about how her father would patrol neighborhoods in the 1950s and 60s with other black men in the neighborhood to protect themselves against the KKK. And, think about how a law like this could be used as a weapon against people who are protecting their neighborhoods when the local police departments won't. And that's what was happening to black Americans during the civil rights movement.
That's
so,
a great
this
point.
is very dangerous, very pernicious.
It could even be used for it could shut down Krav Maga studios where people are trying to learn, military-style self-defense techniques. Or even jiu-jitsu dojos. This is ridiculous, and it's got to be stopped. They're so manipulative in the way that they try to dwell on people's fears, and they throw around these paramilitary groups, Proud Boys, insurrection, and then suddenly you wake up and there's no rights to self-defense. We got to leave it there. Thanks for joining us, though. I appreciate it always. Gun Owners of America, they're on top of all of these things. Erich Pratt, thank you for joining us.
Thank you, guys. You're very welcome.
It is 7:16 now, so let's go straight to Jamie Whitten in the Hadid Carpet Cleaning Traffic Center.
1939.
WMAL, making sense of the forecast. Because you never know what Mother Nature has in store. Download the WMAL app to stream us for free.
Some fascinating developments in presidential politics and in Republican Party intrigue over at the RNC. Sean Spicer is going to join us at 8:05 to sort of break these down in detail. But let's start with the RNC. After a really poor showing in the Virginia elections this last November in terms of the sort of larger picture Republican momentum in an off-year election before a presidential election. You remember Ronna McDaniel in an interview with me said, yeah, we didn't do anything in Virginia. We didn't give money. We didn't help organize. We were told not to by Governor Youngkin, which, of course, nobody has confirmed that. Nobody believes that.
Right.
In any way whatsoever.
Right.
And then we saw earlier this week Donald Trump gave an interview on Fox News and was asked about Ronna McDaniel, saying, yeah, there's probably going to be a change over there. And Jennifer Van Laar, managing editor at redstate.com, as you pointed out earlier, Julie, she did a deep dive into the financial reports from the RNC. They spent $1.5 million this last year on flower arrangements and limousines. And you don't see anything in there about, major
we're
get out the vote
losing elections.
campaigns.
I don't care if you spend $1 million on flowers and limousines if we're winning elections. But the flowers and the limousines don't seem to be helping the bottom line here. The goal, which is that we elect Republicans.
Who are you sending these celebratory flowers to?
Yeah,
it's not like there's any victories that you could be. And by the way, this is at a time when the RNC is opening up a line of credit. They were awash with cash about 6 years ago, and now they're in the hole. So by every measure, there's a problem at the Republican National Committee. The rumors now hitting last night, unconfirmed reports from the Associated Press, some a little bit more aggressively confirmed in other areas of the media, that Ronna McDaniel has decided to resign and step down from her position.
Yeah, and she's faced some really impressive challenges. I mean, Harmeet Dillon is a formidable challenger, and I will see where that goes. But,
well, actually, Harmeet Dillon took to X yesterday and posted that she is not interested. She had her go. Yeah. She shook hands with the person who defeated her and walked away feeling good about the race, and she has no interest in coming back in at this point. But yes, we'll see. Well, I mean, listen, here's the thing. Whoever becomes the nominee for a party, they end up basically deciding who the chairperson is going to be for any given political party.
That's right.
So Donald Trump is going to pick who Ronna McDaniel's replacement is. That's how it's going to go. Yeah. All right, meanwhile, and I say Donald Trump because I don't think Nikki Haley is going to be the nominee.
I don't know.
Yesterday was a pretty good indication. So if you listen to this program, you were pretty well informed about yesterday's Nevada primary, right? It was literally meaningless. The Republican Party in Nevada decided that they were going to have their own caucus on Thursday. Even though the state law has a primary yesterday, they said, well, whoever wins that, we're not going to award any delegates to, because they wanted only Republicans to vote. It's weird how they like that. They didn't want to have a primary where Democrats could come in and vote.
I'm so glad you're in charge of explaining this because I'm still confused. But
even though you were
like,
no.
yeah, I don't think I'm smart enough.
So the state of Nevada has a statute for a primary, but it's an open primary. And the Republican Party in Nevada was like, no, we want Republicans to decide who our nominee is going to be. So they said, you can go ahead and have your primary, your open primary, but we're in charge of our delegates, and we're not going to award any delegates to whoever wins it. We're going to have a caucus on Thursday. So that's what they did. And they also said, if you're a candidate and you participate in that meaningless primary on Tuesday, you will not get any delegates, period. So Nikki Haley decided that she was going to participate. And I think she wanted a headline. I think she thinks that voters are so stupid that they don't understand what I just laid out to you. All she wanted was a headline that said, Nikki Haley wins Nevada primary.
That's right.
Look, we got our victory. We beat Trump.
Yep.
Well, Trump wasn't even participating.
Right.
All right. So winning the Nevada primary on Tuesday is kind of not.
Yeah, but it also seemed like, okay, she's going to win this, right?
That's right.
No.
Not really a victory. But here's where the plan really goes, because that only works if you win the Nevada primary when you're literally not running against anyone.
Right.
And she lost.
Oh, my God.
Because Nikki Haley ran in a primary unopposed, and she lost. Because on the ballot, there was a choice that read none of these candidates.
In multiple
basically
choice questions,
Yeah,
when you have,
it's
and you're
basically-
always supposed to go for that one because that's always the answer. But anyway,
Right.
that is,
None
that
of the
one.
above.
None of the above won.
None of the above won.
Just remarkable.
As one of the headlines put it, humiliating defeat for Nikki Haley, because she literally came in second.
Did she come out
to none of the above.
attacking none of the above
Yeah.
after?
It was really ugly attack ads against the none of the above. It got really dirty. Donald Trump took to social media. A bad night for Nikki Haley. Losing by almost 30 points in Nevada to none of the candidates. Watch, she'll soon claim victory. So, not a great night for Nikki Haley last night. She lost unopposed in a meaningless primary.
Wow.
Of course, she now will not participate in the caucus tomorrow in Nevada, so she's sure to lose that one as well. So she's going to lose two races in Nevada in the same week.
Who is in charge of that campaign?
Yeah, not a good day.
Not smart. Not smart.
We shall see. Well, she does have a shot at the Virgin Islands caucus, I think. Maybe. I don't know. Byron Donalds was. I'm down in the Virgin Islands right now reporting on the caucus.
Yeah.
Byron Donalds was here over the weekend. Wes Hunt. They were both campaigning for Donald Trump. Largely African American. About 80% of the electorate is African American, and Trump sent two African American Republicans who were pretty MAGA down here to campaign for him. Nikki Haley did a Zoom call, and we'll see what happens tomorrow. I'll report to you on the scene.
Excellent.
It is 7:24.
Now on 105.9 FM and streaming worldwide on the WMAL app.
O'Connor and Company.
It is 7:36. It's O'Connor and Company this very busy Wednesday morning in your nation's capital. Thanks for letting us ride shotgun with you and be a part of your morning routine. We really appreciate it. We love it. We cherish it. We can't imagine doing anything else every morning. Coming up at 8:05, Sean Spicer, who is also usually grateful for being a part of our program. He'll join us, talk about the intrigue over at the RNC. You know what? I wonder if Sean Spicer would make a good chairman of the Republican National Committee.
Could be.
We should ask him if he has any interest in replacing Ronna McDaniel. But see, here's the thing. People who have interest in that, they won't say it. Mm-hmm. Sean will tell us.
Yeah.
And then coming up at 8:35, Paula Scanlon to help us celebrate National Girls and Women in Sports Day, which used to be like one of those things. It's like, oh, yeah, we're celebrating women in sports. Now it's become an existential crisis. It's like you have to go out of your way. And by the way, when you celebrate girls and women in sports, you then have to. Yeah, it's like, let me be clear about what I mean by girls and women.
Exactly. Real girls.
Ridiculous. It's Larry O'Connor alongside Julie Gunlock. Julie, I just did a quick, I do a hit on Fox 5 News locally here every Wednesday morning, at 7:30. Yeah. And they were talking about how Nikki Haley just lost to none of the above.
That is such a meme. It
really is.
It's going to be on mugs and T-shirts. You wait.
That said, Nikki Haley is staying in this contest because, and I think that it's not a bad political strategy.
Oh, really?
No. This is not a bad political strategy. I thought that actually Ron DeSantis might stay in for this reason. Something might happen with Donald Trump. Something might happen legally. Something might happen in the courts. Something might happen at the convention because of something happening in the courts. And it's good to just sort of be hanging around just in case that happens.
Yes.
And yesterday, Donald Trump got some bad news out of the D.C. Circuit having to do with the charges against him brought by Jack Smith, the special prosecutor, looking into the January 6th events. John Malcolm is vice president for the Institute of Constitutional Government, director of the Meese Center and Simon Center at the Heritage Foundation. He joins us now. Mr. Malcolm, thanks for being here.
Oh, it's my pleasure. It's good to be with you.
Let's first set aside the merits of the actual case against Donald Trump and what actually happened on January 6th. There was a larger constitutional issue here that the D.C. Circuit looked at, and that had to do with presidential immunity in terms of actions, or in this case, I think, speech, things that he said while he was president. And on the face of it, I would think that there should be some protections for a president.
Well, I think you do have to set aside the merits of the case because the D.C. Circuit has to assume that the allegations in the indictment are true. And then there is just the pure legal question about whether President Trump is entitled to essentially absolute immunity for any actions that he took while he was president. He said there's an exception to that, which is had he been both impeached and convicted, then the Constitution is clear that he could be prosecuted for any of the actions for which he was impeached. But he argued that since he was never convicted, he was impeached twice, but never convicted, he is immune. And the D.C. Circuit rejected that. They said, look, these are criminal statutes, that it is alleged that he knew the statements he was making were false. It is alleged that he knew that he was inciting violence on January 6th. And if that is true, that he is not entitled to any kind of absolute immunity. That basically said, no man is above the law. That includes presidents. And there's unlikely to be a floodgate of former presidents being indicted, but that he will have to stand trial. He's not entitled to immunity.
Now, first of all, there's a couple of questions here with regard to how this decision came out, because earlier in the week we saw, or late last week I should say, we saw that the court had removed the January 6th trial from their docket. It was supposed to start in March. It appeared as though that was in reaction to the fact that they hadn't gotten a decision yet from the D.C. Circuit. And then suddenly you had all of these legal analysts who are, anti-Trump, coming on television, writing columns, jumping up and down, saying, what's taking them so long? This is a slam dunk. It's a no-brainer. This is ridiculous. And then, boom, immediately you get a decision. I mean, forgive me for being somewhat, skeptical here, but it sounds like they were swayed by public opinion here. What was it with the timing?
Look, this is a 40-page opinion. It's a per curiam opinion, meaning the three judges, they signed it as a group. I think that is coincidental. I do not think that the judges said, oh, my God, we better come out with something. The trial date had to move because under the law, nothing is going on before the trial judge, Tanya Chutkin, while this issue is being appealed, because the question is whether or not he should even be subjected to a trial.
Gotcha.
So there was no way, since there are a lot of other pretrial motions to take care of, there was no way that they were going to get a ruling. She could deal with all the pretrial motions, and that March 4th trial date would stick. Mind you, it's now going to go back on a trial calendar, but President Trump is going to appeal this. He will probably first appeal this to the entire D.C. Circuit, trying to get them to reconsider the issue, and if he loses that, take it to the Supreme Court. So it's still going to be a while before that trial gets set, and I'm sure that he is actually hoping that he can get it put off until after the election.
Well, and that brings us to the timeline here, because my understanding is, first of all, you suggest he's going to ask for an en banc decision, en banc, or however you guys pronounce it in the legal world, and then take it to the Supreme Court. I was looking at Byron York from the Washington Examiner's analysis of this. Usually a defendant would get 90 days to decide on an appeal to the Supreme Court. Is there a truncated timeline here? I'm to understand that Donald Trump only gets a week to make that decision. Is that true?
I think what they said was that that they will withhold the mandate, meaning the opinion won't go into effect if he appeals immediately. I still think that former President Trump is going to try to drag this out as long as he can, even if they don't withhold the mandate and it gets put back on a trial calendar. There are still a lot of motions to deal with, so that trial is not going to take place immediately. And by the time the trial would take place, he will certainly have filed a petition to the Supreme Court asking them to hear the case. So I don't think he's going to be governed by that. I think he's going to try to drag this out as long as possible.
Do the judges care about the election timeline here? Because I get, when you're talking about issues of constitutionality and law and precedent that will carry forward for presidencies 100 years from now, I get very nervous when people say, well, we got to make a decision fast on this because an election's coming up. I mean, this is about something bigger than just the next election, right? Are judges swayed by that?
Yeah, I doubt it. Maybe some judges will be. I certainly think that the justices, for instance, are very persuaded by that with respect to the case you're going to hear argued tomorrow, which is whether or not Donald Trump should be allowed to be on the ballot or whether he is disqualified from, holding the office of president. To that, because it's a question of, people start voting and you got to get names on ballots. There, they feel the urgency of there's an election coming up. We've got to get it done. I doubt they'll feel an urgency here. It's still going to be quite a while. There are other cases that are pending. There's that mess going on in Georgia. There's still the case in Florida. And there's the case in New York City, which is on a trial calendar for March the 25th. So it is possible that case will be the first criminal case to go out.
All right. We're going to have to leave it there. But thank you for shedding some light on yesterday's decision and what the timeline going forward may be. You're expecting en banc first and then all the way up to the Supreme Court. All right. Thank you. John Malcolm, great to talk with you.
My pleasure.
Director of the Me Center and Simon Center at the Heritage Foundation, John Malcolm.
I-51 Bible.
Julie Gunlock, I would like to applaud our efforts, our heroic efforts, if I may, over the last several months to not gratuitously attack Taylor Swift. It's been hard. It's been really hard. The temptation has been there, but we have resisted. We haven't jumped on this bandwagon. We haven't, gratuitously gone after her. I am a little annoyed at the NFL.
But frankly, I'm a little confused by the sort of anger at Taylor Swift.
At Taylor Swift? Well, I think a lot of people just don't
I know
like
she's
her.
Annoying.
They don't like her politics, and therefore they don't like her. And it's fine. That said, we may have found something that is worthy of outrage with regard to Taylor Swift.
Truly.
As you know, Toby Keith died suddenly and tragically overnight.
62.
Night before last of stomach cancer. And the tributes, the people from all walks of life who had been touched by Toby Keith in one way or another, even tangentially. I saw some people say, I met him one time at this award show. We had a great time talking for about an hour and a half backstage. Yeah. I'll never forget this guy. He still kept in touch. He was still a good friend. Things like that. People in the entertainment industry, music industry. Not Taylor Swift. Not Taylor Swift. Taylor Swift, so far, and we've checked all of her social media accounts, she has not said one thing about Toby Keith. And you would say, well, so what? So what? Okay, right. She doesn't have to jump out there and say something about every person and celebrity or music artist who dies.
But...
Yeah. There's something very specific about Taylor Swift. Take a listen to this. This is from 2005, when a young 15-year-old girl named Taylor Swift was just breaking into the Nashville music scene. Listen.
She came to Nashville last year writing her own songs, singing them, and hoping someone would like them. Toby Keith did. So much so that he just signed her to his new record label. That makes them partners.
You're in the room with him and you can feel it. There's a power there and you're just like, oh my God. So I don't think I'll ever get to a point where I won't see him and be like, oh my God, that's Toby Keith.
Now on the moment of his passing. Yeah, she got to that point where again, I'm going to try to extend grace here. Maybe she's still, distraught over it. She's emotionally.
No, as I said to you earlier, look, you have press people. Taylor Swift has probably a bigger PR firm than Apple. And these things, he was sick for a lot of years. This was not, he didn't, sort of die of heart failure in his sleep. And the idea that her team, probably dozens, couldn't craft a statement saying the influence that he had and that she is where she is because of him. He discovered her. He signed her. Artists often talk about, particularly, recording artists talk about that first time they were signed.
Yeah, the break.
Big deal
the big break.
Yep. And, that reporter said they were partners. He did a lot to promote her.
Yeah.
And it was good for him, too. It was good for his company. And so the idea that she stayed silent on this is just, it's really disappointing.
9 years ago, Toby Keith was inducted into the Songwriters Hall of Fame. Taylor Swift made a special video congratulating him directly to it. So, it's maybe something changed in the last 9 years. There was a lot of bad blood, if I can say that, about the sale of her music catalog, right? And I guess Toby Keith was a partner in that sale. Maybe she feels like Toby Keith did her wrong in the sale of the music catalog or something.
Do we know that he was involved in that?
I don't. Well, I know that he was a partner in all of that music at the beginning. Whether he was still there when it all got sold without her consent or whatever, I don't know. I'm just speculating. I can't understand why she wouldn't step forward.
Why are you so on Taylor's side?
I'm not on Taylor's side. I'm trying to be fair and balanced and give
why
as
don't
many
you like Toby Keith? Why don't
possible
you like him?
reasons why. Because the other reason that might be the reason why is because he is an unabashedly pro-American, right-wing, pro-Trump Republican.
Military supporting. That's right.
And maybe Taylor Swift's just outgrown that sort of thing now.
There you go.
It's 7:53.